Hey, my friend. Tonight, we're wrapping ourselves in the thick, musty blanket of medieval history, reeking of dry straw and the wild fears of humble folk. People who believed every falling star was a soul slipping from its body. And no, don't expect a knight in shining armor to gallop in. This isn't a Disney romance. This is raw panic, with rat droppings, curses, and blazing straw bales in a meteor shower night. You won't survive this night. Trust me. Before we dive in, don't forget to turn on the fan for that sleepy hum, switch off the lights, and hit the subscribe button, because every like is a prayer to ward off bad omens from the past. And drop a comment to tell me where you're listening from. Are you near a field of straw? As a day of toiling in the fields winds down, the village of Valdren, a speck of dust in 14th century Europe, sinks into dusk. The muddy dirt path leads to the village square, where a stone well sits like the eye of a giant fish. Around it, low thatched roofs, mud and straw walls cracked in streaks, the air thick with smoke, stewed turnips and toil. No electricity, no bulletin boards, but the sky is the only social media always on. As the poplar grove swallows the day's last light, the familiar show begins. A dusting of stars sprinkles the night's canvas. The villagers don't know meteor showers. They see fiery blades slicing the heavens, believing each is a soul torn from the earth. This belief seeps into every crevice. When a cow dies suddenly, they recall if a streak lit the night before. When a child fevered, they kept fires burning, fearing the sky's blade would steal the little soul. In a world of scarcity, fear plays the chief physician. The evening drags like cold season honey. The thud of pestles grinding chestnut husks blends with the crackle of burning logs, firelight dancing on walls, illuminating swaying cobwebs. Supper is watery barley porridge, turnips, and a pinch of borrowed salt. They eat in silence, ears tuned to the wind whistling through wall gaps, distant owl hoots, and sighs over field taxes. Poverty grinds shoulders, hands, but not imagination, their only untaxed treasure. Storytelling is the nightly pastime. Village elder Flemond raises a cracked hand to the sky, saying each star is a candle guarding a soul. When the candle dies, a fiery streak falls, and its soul rips from the body. Children gape, forgetting their cooling porridge. No books needed, just a soot-stained ceiling to spin horror. The fear of meteors isn't impulsive. It ripens slowly through harvests, funerals. Each toll of the church bell for the dead prompts furtive skyward glances, dreading a fiery blade signaling the departed's unrest. If it happens, they whisper to gather straw, for thick smoke hides them from the soul reaper. Dry straw bales always stack under eaves. A single cry of "Skyblade" can turn the village into a cloud of smoke. The acrid fumes sting eyes, forcing them shut, avoiding a direct gaze at a falling star, seen as baring your neck to fate's blade. That autumn evening, straw strewn across yards fanned the fear hotter. Everyone squinted at clouds, discerning normal from ominous shapes forming. It felt like awaiting a dismissal letter, uncertain, but breath already thin. At Odeland Stream, Children washed feet, counted fireflies, calling them little souls. They hadn't yet learned to tremble. Tonight, they only bickered over which star shone brightest. Widow Ragna, thrice married, set down her embroidery needle, sniffing the dried garlic hung from the rafters, not to ward off demons, just to mask the scent of dread. When the last rooster fell silent, Valdrin sank into thick quiet. A single oil lamp at Flemin's house cast a feeble golden halo, illuminating his eyes as he tallied tax records. From afar, the glow resembled a teardrop on the earth, poised to fall, uncaught. The northern sky flashed a pale green streak. Too quick for words, too vivid to forget. A scrawny dog let out a soft howl, its eerie sound sliding along thatched roofs. In fitful sleep, villagers stirred, brows furrowing. The seed of panic had taken root. By dawn, whispers crept through willow fences. Last night, a sky blade. No proof, but the rumor raced faster than wind. They hefted hoes, yet eyes darted, counting dry straw. By dusk, smoke would rise. Valdrin moved like a sleepwalker on creaking floorboards. Hands peeled turnips, lips mumbled prayers. The graveyard was full, and meteors, to them, were summonses scrawled in fire. Before sunset, Enid's millstone still turned, roasting flax seeds filling the air with a rich, nutty scent. Blacksmith Alaric's hammer struck, red sparks dying in the crisp air, a reminder that human fire paled against the sky's blades. He glanced upward, tracing a cross with charcoal-stained fingers. At noon, the sun hung low like a red copper coin, cicadas drone blending with hammer strikes into a scorched melody. Elspeth spread linen, setting out onions and fennel bags for her father's remedy, but Valdrin's flies, stubborn as taxes, swarmed. Glancing skyward, she feared the onion's sweet scent might lure wandering souls if stars fell tonight, so she bundled the cloth, muttering, "Tomorrow." Evening mist swiftly cloaked the stubbled oat fields, brushing ankles like a reminder that the sky owned the night. From afar, the church bell tolled thrice, reason unclear, but all knew a prayer service loomed. They lined up with cracked wax candles, their prayers mixed with coughs rising in the dim glow. In the candlelight, Valdrin struck a fragile deal with God. If a soul must fall, spare this weary, impoverished village. Yet, their humble plea only briefly closed their eyes. The sky, as every night, still stirred fear into the sleep of the poor. Night falls over the misty fields, Valdrin's sky unfurling a vast, inky velvet canopy. Across it, stars streak unpredictably, like iron birds glinting on their migration. Far-off nobles, perched in lofty castles, raise goblets of honey-sweet wine, gazing at the meteor shower as nature's gift to poets. They call it the gods' embers gently falling, an endless muse for penning rambling verses of love, fleeting beauty, and undying desire. Ladies with curling lashes tuck their secrets into the fleeting light, then return to the safe darkness of velvet drapes. To them, a meteor shower is a festival, a cosmic dance, where words and dreams float to the night sky, each streak a stroke on a blank page. But step just beyond the castle, past sturdy stone walls, and you enter a different world, where mud and straw huts huddle on damp ground, where flickering fires mingle with the pungent aroma of boiled turnips. This is the realm of the poor, with parched cornfields on rough mounds, pigsties reeking of dung, and owls blinking at dusk. Here there is no poetry, only fear. A meteor shower brings no joy, but a merciless verdict from nameless gods. When night's curtain rises and streaks blaze down, the villagers believe it's a soul snatching by underworld spirits. According to tales passed down through years, each falling star is a wayward soul. Its light doesn't merely fade in the heavens, but plunges like an invisible arrow, stealing the last breath from frail lungs. On meteor shower nights, all of Valdrin bows in dread. Gazing at the sky, eyes squeezed shut, ears catching the wind's wail through thatched gaps, they imagine their fates scripted in fire. That night, the small tavern at the village edge lay pitch black. Rats scurried past feet. Ragna, the destitute gatekeeper, sat by a smoldering fire. She wore a tattered straw hat, clutching a small torch. Spotting a meteor streak, she gritted her teeth, cursing, "Another soul gone astray. Let's burn smoke to chase the demons." Smoke rose in waves, carrying a scorched stench into the icy air. The fire surged, its heat a plea to the gods. "If you want a soul, look elsewhere. Don't torment these wretched fools." Nearby, young couple Emmerich and Celia clung to trembling hands. They feared the last golden glow fading, leaving Orion's belt slashing the sky. Emmerich, striving for calm, shut his eyes, whispering a shout to quell fear. "Lord, spare me." Celia occasionally glanced at a streak like an icy blade, then sighed, slow and heavy, as if carrying winter on her shoulders. This belief wasn't born in one night. It rooted deep in farming cycles, sowing, reaping, turmoil. When harsh weather struck, golden wheat fell barren. All eyes turned skyward for meteor signs. They believed a fierce shower foretold blighted crops, plagues sowing death, livestock collapsing in stalls, the moans of cows, the listless clucks of hens, all blamed on the streaks flashing by. Some even whispered that meteor showers sparked fiery disasters. One night, a streak grazed an oil lamp hung on a door, shaking its wick, spilling oil that ignited. The blaze roared like a tempest, devouring a dozen mud huts in minutes. Men flung themselves over wives and children. Women clutched baskets, circling the flames, calling ancestors' spirits for salvation. At dawn, ash scattered, leaving echoes of sobs and the acrid smell of charred cloth. From such tales, meteor showers became an indelible omen. Anyone daring to stare at a falling star, they believed, had their soul sucked into it, lost forever. They warned children, "Don't open your eyes when stars fall," or read more, "Your soul will reek of ash, your heart will hollow." Sleep became a battle between fear and drowsiness. The hum of a hand fan in the corner, a mother's clapping lullaby, all aimed to coax children into dreams free of cruel constellations. Yet, fear sometimes dulled vigilance to real dangers. Obsessed with burning smoke to ward off spirits, families forgot to lock grain stores, Rats gnawed, diseased rodents spread plague. In a cruel irony, their panic birthed new calamities: plague, famine, silent killers deadlier than any star. Valdrin's villagers had no poetry, only dread brewed from straw smoke. They held no stargazing festivals, only rituals to banish demons. Each burning bale was a message to the gods. We've learned fear. Spare our children's souls. Smoke seeped into thatch, through door cracks, into sleep, weaving a hazy veil between waking and dreaming. Today, as bright streetlights dim, we can sit cozy in blankets, watching meteors without smoke. But back then, under cold constellations, the poor crafted fragile boundaries to preserve their breath. They believed enough smoke would sway the gods, granting peace for tomorrow's smile, however simple, amid watery porridge and memories of green fields. And so, to Valdrin's folk, a meteor shower wasn't a fleeting glow, but a warning from gods, a wordless message, chilling hearts. As they burned straw, smoke drifting lazily, picture it as the final melody before night fully fell. When you hear smoke's faint hiss threading the sky, remember. In those ancient nights, each falling star hung fear on the shoulders of the poor. And in that acrid haze, beneath the ash, human warmth lingered, praying for peace to outlast history's nightmare. As night slowly descended on the tattered thatched roofs, the villagers of Valdrin, gaunt shadows after a grueling day in the fields, began to feel the looming dread in the air. The cicada's late summer drone faded into silence, leaving only crickets' chirps, startled by gusts of autumnal wind. Every pair of eyes turned to the sky, awaiting something nameless, a fiery streak across the dark. They believed that glimpsing the first meteor would shatter peace, like dry twigs under a flame. To thwart this ill omen, the villagers united in the nightly straw-burning ritual, an ancient custom so old its origin story was lost. Preparations began at twilight. Elder Flemond rapped his knuckles on the altar of St. Michael, signaling the start. Blacksmith Alaric set down his hammer, plunged his hands into a burlap sack, and hauled straw bales from the cowshed. Ragna, the straw witch, as children teased, donned her lopsided straw hat, eyes smudged with soot, a tattered scarf draped over her shoulders. Villagers gathered in the square, each clutching a bundle of dry straw, bustling as if preparing for an unusual feast. Young men of marriageable age carried flint stones, per tradition, to spark the first flame. Elders, bundling straw, muttered prayers. Fire, swallow the sky blade above. Smoke, bind the wandering souls, spare our homes. Dry straw twisted into bundles, touched by flint, erupted in red sparks, licking the parched leaves. A thin veil of smoke rose, curling around the weathered wooden post by the door. The acrid, nutty scent enveloped all, mingling with damp earth and dried cow dung. As the straw blazed higher, the village sank into a thick white haze. Smoke swirled around posts, spread across the square, slipped through thatched roof gaps. A gentle breeze stirred, the smoke fluttering, drifting past steps into mouths, prompting sneezes. But no one complained. They believed each breath of straw smoke was an invisible shield, guarding their souls from the unseen hands of meteors. At the square's edge, children in tiny straw hats scampered, squinting at the smoke coiling into bizarre shapes. They leaned on each other, curious to see what the smoke would paint in the sky. A curling dragon, a giant butterfly, or a stranger's face. Adults chuckled at the sight, clapping lightly to shoo them. Run along before the smoke fills your lungs. The pungent smell of burning straw made Valdrin's air both mystical and warm, like a winter straw feast. As smoke still wreathed, Friar Jonas stepped forward with a small prayer book, his trembling voice reciting lines beseeching God and saints. Latin blended with local dialect, lending solemnity to the seemingly simple rite. Finishing, Jonas sprinkled holy water around the fire, believing the droplets would bind the feet of passing evil spirits. The fire's glow reflected warm gold on Ragna's plump cheeks. She tilted her face into the smoke, inhaling deeply, as if sniffing for demons. Each time the smoke thickened, she nodded. Good smoke. The sky's far off now. In her heart, and others, a fragile comfort flickered, however fleeting. The villagers believed that fulfilling the ritual would keep meteors at bay, letting them sleep soundly until dawn. At the square's corner, Emmerich slumped to the ground, cradling a smoldering bale, eyes half closed. He thought, just fire and smoke, and maybe tomorrow I'll still have boiled yams to eat. Celia, his wife, used an old ceramic cup to scoop stream water, pouring it bit by bit onto the wooden post's base. Water splashed, dousing the fire briefly before it flared fiercer. They said this challenged the sky's light. If the flame died even for a moment, it was a victory. The fire's warmth eased the evening chill, forming a real circle of light in the bleak scene. The scent of burning straw mixed with dampness, quickening hearts like drum beats. In that moment, the straw smoke wasn't just a veil against soul reapers, but a thread binding the community. All gathered around the blaze, hands clutching bales, lips murmuring a shared fragile faith. The air grew still, only the crackle of logs breaking the quiet. Suddenly, a meteor streaked by, sharp and fleeting, like a glowing claw tearing the night. Every gaze shot upward, hearts seizing. The straw smoke swirled, as if embracing the streak, shielding it from view. Someone whispered, "See?" The smoke stopped it. Yet, despite the claim, pulses raced. For in Valdrin, victory over meteors was never complete. Amid the haze, occasional golden flickers danced in makeshift ceramic lamps, and villagers nodded, believing each small act, striking flint, sprinkling holy water, chanting prayers, breathing smoke, helped preserve their family's warmth. They reminded each other, "Don't sleep yet, let the smoke rise higher," delaying slumber on the fragile line between life and lost souls. As the straw dwindled, the fire faded. The smoke dispersed, leaving a faint scorched scent on thatch, in children's hair, in the sleep to come. Villagers trudged home, steps heavy, as if they danced with death. Before shutting their doors, each glanced back at the smoke-filled square where the ritual unfolded, bidding farewell to the nightmare, welcoming hope for dawn. Valdrin sank into fitful silence. The fire's last warmth lingered, but the straw smoke had melted into the night breeze. Charred bales littered the square, remnants of their stand against fate. Now, only quiet shadows remained, eyes closed, breaths steady, thanks to the smoke, however briefly, forming an invisible armor between them and the unseen hands above. And as the night closed, Valdrin allowed itself a less haunted sleep. Straw smoke wasn't magic nor science. But in a world where people couldn't explain why meteors fell, smoke was the only thing tangible, smellable, believable, to keep souls safe through one long night. As Valdrin's villagers gathered enough dry straw, setting it ablaze, with smoke swirling across the square, a singular figure emerged. Ragna, the only woman entrusted with the role of fire starter. It wasn't by chance that she became the heart of this peculiar ritual. Rumors whispered that she lived alone in a hut at the village's edge, bordering the oak forest. By day, she wove baskets, gathered herbs. At night, her murmurs echoed. "Stars, stay away," startling children too scared to venture out. She wore a straw hat so large it hid her face, lopsided like an upturned basket. Woven from fresh straw, it bore the faded gold of a failed harvest. Patches of tattered brocade adorned it, deemed a charm to repel evil spirits. Valdrin's folk passed down tales that the hat wasn't just for sun or rain, but an invisible veil shielding against wayward souls. When the ritual began, Ragna shuffled through the smoldering straw, clutching a blazing torch. The torch, crafted from sturdy straw cores wrapped in dry bark to hold the flame, was her tool. She was the first to touch it to the pile, an act deciding the village's fate. A gentle nudge of bark against straw, and flames roared, smoke surging high, forming a curtain to cloak the falling stars. Seeing Ragna then, her frail frame jagged in the golden firelight, her age was hard to discern. Her face half hidden under the hat, only her eyes gleamed with ember-like mischief. She muttered words no one fully grasped, their rhythm hypnotic, as if slowing the sky's streaks. "Burn, vile stars, stay far from my home," she growled softly, her voice sharp, then fading into a weary, hopeful sigh. Those faint sounds hushed the onlookers' hearts. The straw smoke seemed alive, twisting to Ragna's will. It curled around wooden posts, seeped through thatched roofs, weaving an illusory sense of safety. Villagers weren't sure if it was divine magic or faith's power, but they exhaled, stepping through the night. Ragna's duty wasn't just sparking the fire. She moved smoldering bales across the square, assuring no stray spirits clung to corners. When smoke thinned too quickly, she waved for more straw, insisting, "Smoke must be thick, or meteors will pierce it." They likened her to the ritual's breath, keeping smoke rising. That evening, from the square's edge, the fire's crackle merged with wind whistling through roof gaps. Ragna had a habit of tilting her hat toward the breeze, letting smoke ride it, enveloping the village. This ensured the smoke didn't pool but spread evenly, shielding every home. No one knew where she learned this trick. Some said ancient books in a nearby monastery mentioned smoke rituals, but the monastery was far, and villagers rarely dared go. Children from nearby huts sometimes trailed her to the square's end, peeking through her hat's brim. Their eyes sparkled as smoke wreathed her, imagining her a fairy from old tales. Ragna, hearing their whispers, only wheezed a laugh, spinning her torch. She rarely spared time for children, making these fleeting moments of recognition, though some saw her as wild or troublesome, rare. After the final lighting, Ragna used a long bamboo stick to stir the dying ashes. The act sent ash swirling like fine rain, settling silently on the ground. Valdrin believed ash strewn across the square was remnants of vanquished demons. So they carefully swept it, dumping it by the river at dawn, a cleansing of lingering fear. Ending the fire starting, Ragna folded her straw hat in half, slinging it over her shoulder like a joyful burden. She trudged back to her hut at the village's edge, leaving behind cold ash and the faint, scorched scent lingering in the air. The muddy path lay deserted, only her hunched silhouette dim in the moonlight. The creak of her wooden door signaled her satisfaction. Even in her hut, Ragna didn't rest. She swept the threshold with a small broom, ensuring no stray ash remained, for if it did, she believed demons could latch on and return. Done, she set the torch upside down on a dry bamboo rack, its last smoke curling to the ceiling, then fading. The final light died, leaving only the wind's whistle through door cracks, as if saying, "The ritual is done." Ragna slept earlier than others, perhaps drained from a night battling the fears of women, children, and clumsy men. Before closing her eyes, she whispered, as if to the gods, "Tomorrow, I'll burn again, for the village's peace." Then, she curled under a thin wool blanket, her sleep light, like the last breath of the dying ash. At dawn, sunlight spilled through her small window, glinting on fine ash. Valdrin awoke, eager to see the ritual's outcome. Ash blanketed the square like gray silk, unmarred by wind or dark meteor marks. They sighed in relief, knowing Ragna had excelled. Children gathered under the village oak, scooping ash to play sorcery, the only game they grasped from last night's rite. Thus, with her quirky straw hat and role as fire starter, Ragna not only preserved Valdrin's peace, but safeguarded the community's soul. Though we now view meteors through science's lens, sometimes recall Ragna, the woman in the upturned hat, clinging to fire to banish evil, keeping warmth for the poor's sleep in the 14th century. Don't scoff when you hear that medieval Valdrin villagers pinned their fears on meteor showers as a curse. Imagine living in a world without hospitals, microscopes, or books to explain the cosmos. Each dawn was a grueling battle of survival against natural disasters, hunger, disease, livestock dying inexplicably. In such a society, faith and survival blended into a spiritual sedative, often vague, unscientific, yet offering a fleeting sense of controlling fate. In Valdrin, the trove of medical knowledge was a few tattered pages from a nearby monastery. Villagers didn't know why a healthy cow collapsed, foaming at the mouth. They only knew the previous night bore a long meteor streak across the dark. Their minds linked it instantly. That strange light cursed the herd. Without autopsies, without knowledge of bacteria or parasites, the only plausible explanation was a meteor. The tale of Matilda the cow spread like autumn wind. The morning she entered the shed, the acrid smell of last night's straw smoke lingered in the square, yet the cow died. They said a mighty meteor struck the shed, snatching the beast's soul mid-dream, felling it. From then on, herding families scrambled to burn straw, vying to produce the thickest smoke, desperate to save more cows, their lifeline after farming. This belief turned Valdrin into a village of smoke. Even on starless nights, they burned smoke, hedging against sneaky streaks. Carpenters hoarded dry planks, not for houses, but for meteor season fires. Friar Jonas noted predicted shower dates in his liturgy book, sharing them with every household. Even during harvest, when Wheatfield's winds roared like war drums, straw smoke smoldered, a constant, invisible shield of faith. Not just cows, other livestock were treated with smoke. Hens brooding eggs were held over smoky fires, believed to guard yolks from evil spirits. When a dog caught mange, its owner rushed it through thick smoke, trusting it banished wicked viruses. It didn't cure diseases, but at least gave owners a sense of fighting death, easing minds in a world of loss. In the open square, amid smells of smoke and cow dung, 6 elderly women huddled by a pile of spent straw ash. They sat in a circle, scooping ash, blowing it gently skyward. Ash drifted in thin layers, like mystical mist. They believed ash held the slain spirit of dust, marking the curse's defeat. Any speck landing on their clothes was a sign. Bad luck's gone. Outsiders might call it nonsense, but the women smirked. Our nonsense, but it ensures we sleep better. Undeniably, each ritual gave them purpose in the dark, a chance to share fears with neighbors, to tell cosmic ghost stories. Amid the smoky haze, unscientific as it was, they felt empowered. Not to control nature, but their fear. In the enveloping darkness, that comfort brought precious sleep, a luxury in their weary lives. Gunner's story, a small farmer, once chilled the village. During a heavy meteor shower, Gunner was mending a cattle fence. Seeing a streak plunge, he panicked, sprinting to the shed, tossing straw before his cows, setting it ablaze. He shouted for all to hear, "My fire! Stay away from me!" His cry rang out, smoke billowed, the herd stampeded in terror. By morning, the cows survived, but the fence burned to cinders. Gunner gave a wry smile. Lost the fence, kept the cows. Better lose wood than souls. In Valdrin, meteor fear seeped into annual festivals. The harvest feast, once joyous, saw households bring lavish barley porridge, thick mead. But after meteor legends spread, they added incense bales and glass ash vials to the altar, a ritual seeming to ward off doom, pleading for a meteor-free year. The feast grew heavy, solemn, making even rowdy guests pause their drinking, abashed. Over time, this belief sank into Valdrin's blood. Newborns learned to burn smoke before arithmetic. New mothers Beside incense and straw, tucked brocade cloth with smoke symbols, believing it shielded infants from meteor curses. Knocks at the midwife's door shifted from babies crying to "Seen a meteor yet?" Each yes or no set the family's first night, peaceful sleep or a sleepless vigil stoking straw. As the outside world advanced, modern medicine rising, Valdrin clung to the straw smoke ritual as tradition. Rare visitors came to study, snapping photos of smoke drifting at night. They smirked. A belief still alive, how quaint. But they didn't grasp that this belief was a priceless spiritual sedative for the village. Faith. In a recent sociological study, an American professor visited Valdrin, armed with air quality meters, analyzing smoke. He confirmed straw smoke carried toxic dust, potentially harming lungs. Yet, after witnessing the ritual, he admitted locals slept better. Smoke may not cure disease, but it cures fear, he marveled in his notes. Today, as we sit in air-conditioned rooms, clicking to watch meteor showers via time-lapse live streams, few can fathom the terror Valdrin's folk felt. But in the 21st century, we sometimes need our own spiritual straw smoke. A belief, however vague, strong enough to banish anxiety, easing us into sleep. And if you're lying there, pressing play on this video, breathe deep. Picture misty straw smoke coiling around you like a soft promise. Tonight, no meteor can steal your sleep. Close your eyes. Let this poor village's history lull you into a gentler dream, where faith, however humble, became a warm blanket in a freezing medieval night. As night fell over Valdrin, with straw smoke from ritual fires still swirling around thatched roofs, a strange custom began: the fire corridor. Not every village in the region practiced it, but in the outlying hamlets, when the first meteor shower appeared, children were led through a corridor of thick straw smoke. Adults claimed this rite would cleanse the sin of dead light, freeing spirits from the meteor's curse, ensuring a peaceful night's sleep. It all stemmed from a legend about a family whose young daughter, Elin, suffered relentless nightmares whenever stars fell. After meteor showers, Elin would wail, dreaming of a dark figure gliding by her bed, muttering, "Give blood," leaving her mother sleepless with worry. Until the village seer suggested, led Elin through straw smoke 3 times to wash away the dead light clinging to her soul. Only then did the girl's nightmares cease. From there, the tale spread. At first, only a few children passed through the smoke, but by the next year, it was custom. After the straw-burning rite ended, Ragna, or Friar Jonas, erected a makeshift gate of bamboo, draped with tattered cloth. 2 rows of smoldering straw lined the path, thick smoke billowing. A child, led by kin, stepped slowly, breathing in the faint smoke, believing it purged the terror of meteor streaks. The scene was vivid, like a December rite at winter festivals, wind hissing through smoke, children's feet crunching on gravel, firelight flickering in the dark. Occasionally, smoke droplets fell like drizzle, prompting sneezes. The children dared not laugh or chatter, only clung to their mother's hands, eager to cross the nightmare's threshold. Some softly sang an old rhyme. Through smoke, cleanse soul. Through ash, bathe spirit. Meteors, stay far. Sleep sound, unharmed. In truth, the lofty goal was simpler. Adults wanted to ensure children didn't wet the bed from meteor fear, leading them through smoke, thrice-trained focus, curbing the urge to relieve themselves until dawn. But to outsiders, Valdrin insisted it was an ancient rite, embellished as sacred to guard souls from sky demons. The practice bonded the community. Parents took turns watching children pass through smoke, sharing meteor ghost stories, enlivening the ritual. A mother, Celia, recalled, "The first night her husband led their 6-year-old son through the fire corridor, the boy trembled, eyes shut, muttering, 'Meteors, don't hit me.' As they walked, adults urged, 'Be strong, the smoke chases nightmares.' The chant became tradition, convincing children they were brave, less afraid. The fire corridor wasn't just for meteor showers, but used when plague or crop failure plagued the village. Every calamity was blamed on strange starlight. When worms ravaged fields, they sighed, 'Must have been a weird streak last night.' Friar Jonas swept ash and smoke across the church door, leading children through the corridor to purge clans of ill omens. For children, the spectacle was initially terrifying. Many wailed, unable to distinguish ritual smoke from house fires. Once, smoke grew so thick it nearly choked a child, whose mother leapt in to guide him, sparking village laughter. Such bittersweet mishaps became folklore, lending the rite a hue both mystical and humorous. When the fire corridor ended, children were marked with a small ash streak on their foreheads, a cleansing sign for dreamless sleep. No crosses or complex symbols, just a thin ash line. By morning, the mark faded in the dew, a reminder the rite was symbolic, yet its relief profound. Sometimes, curious outsiders bought tickets to see Valdrin's fire corridor. They snapped photos of children in smoke, quizzing about myths or crowd psychology. Villagers stifled giggles, offering guests betel nut and honey drinks, ritual fare. They relished watching foreigners marvel at the misty smoke. Today, with medicine and science widespread, this odd custom endures. Valdrin schools teach a local history lesson on the fire corridor as cultural heritage. Occasionally, American student volunteers visit, noting it as one of Europe's most distinctive folk rites. But none truly join, knowing it's mainly to steel children's resolve and bind the community after fearful nights. In our modern dark, with streetlights aglow, quelling a meteor's shine is a click on stop during a live stream. But in Valdrin, they still believe in the fire corridor, to guide souls past the line of dream and reality. It may not cure illness or drought, but it saves mental calm, letting Valdrin sleep soundly. And if you're curled in blankets, your laptop's blue glow flickering, close your eyes. Picture yourself a Valdrin child. Step through the fire corridor thrice. Breathe straw smoke. Feel its smoldering warmth. Hear the fires crackle. Believe that fear, though science denies it, can be banished by an ancient rite. That's why, however strange, the fire corridor lives on in the hearts of those needing a small miracle before sinking into peaceful sleep. In 1095, the skies over northern France turned strange. There was no astronomy to explain it then, only farmers and blacksmiths gazing up, understanding nothing. Amid the night's curtain, thousands of streaks blazed through, dazzling like fiery spears plunging down, trailing faint, flickering smoke. It was the Geminid meteor shower, but Valdrin's villagers and other hamlets knew no name, only a calamity from the heavens. Nearby monastery records, etched with trembling quills, survive. The sky glowed terrifyingly. Bright stars fell like rain, unrelenting for 4 nights. From Normandy to Champagne, tales spread that the light didn't merely streak the air, but fell like fire trails, igniting panic in every village. When Friar Gervais logged it, he called it the ruin of stars, evoking a sense of doomsday descending at night. A map of crisis swiftly formed in the minds of those who heard. Where starlight scattered, doom struck. Béthune, a few miles from Valdrin, was noted. On the Meteor night, cows dropped dead, birds perched silently on fields, as if witnessing death's passage. While Valdrin burned straw smoke to ward off meteors, Béthune only shivered. Then came the tale of the burning dragon. Perhaps Valdrin's straw smoke, wafting under meteor glow, made some see eerie streaks, mistaking them for a fiery creature soaring. Rumors raced. That day, a colossal fire trail writhed, curling past red-tiled roofs, leaving ash trails like a tail. The sun god's dragon crossed the heavens, heralding a duty of destruction. Amid this, Châlons-en-Champagne, a riverside community by the Marne, faced crisis. On the first meteor night, villagers spread word. The dragon spat fire into the Marne, water hissing and boiling. By morning, fish died en masse, washing ashore. They believed meteor light, and the dragon scorched the river, sowing disease. The stench of dead fish spread, fueling panic. None dared eat fish, and rumors of plague surged. Within 3 weeks, Châlons-en-Champagne was deserted. Houses stood empty, fields ungathered, only the wind's hush sweeping mossy thatch. Villagers fled to larger towns, seeking hope. Monasteries and churches shut, bells silent. The crisis map marked red dots for abandoned hamlets, emblematic of places ravaged by the meteor wave. Valdrin, despite its straw smoke ritual, reeled too. Rumors said kin from Béthune and Châlons sought refuge in Valdrin, carrying plague from dead fish. The village burned more straw, kindled more fires, not just for meteors, but to incinerate fish carcasses and ash, curbing disease. In those 3 weeks of spiritual tempest, Valdrin bore a strange burden, fending off celestial omens and contagion in pigsties. The nearby monastery recorded, within a month, only Valdrin and 3 neighboring hamlets dared stay. They piled straw high, burned it all night, on slopes overlooking Châlons' desolation, praying ash wouldn't carry demon souls. Amid the thick smoke of blazing bales, Valdrin kindled a peculiar hope. Perhaps smoke dense enough could block both dragon and stars. After the crisis passed, meteor showers waning, fish plague subsiding, Valdrin and nearby hamlets prided their straw smoke ritual. They boasted only they saved their village, while Châlons lay abandoned. they deluded themselves that smoke not only repelled meteor evils, but prevented plague. This cemented the ritual's status, blending faith and survival, an invisible shield for the community. Later records tell of the straw smoke doom-burning festival. Valdrin held a grander rite, erecting 2 stone pillars carved with eagles flanking the square, a gate for the festival. Hamlet leaders from Normandy journeyed to witness, bringing tales of forsaken fields. They learned Valdrin's smoke burning, prayed under haze, then returned, eager to share with their villages. The monastery's crisis map noted, regions lacking straw smoke rituals saw more abandonment. Gradually, the tradition spread beyond Valdrin, to 2 hamlets over the hill, then to Saint Gervais Monastery. Red dots on the crisis map turned green. Adopted ritual survived meteor showers. Valdrin celebrated like victors of a great battle. They invited Friar Gervais to pen a hymn. Straw smoke, the poor's moon, light of salvation in the meteor night. The hymn rang in the church, curiously drawing noble attention. The next year, a local count sent carts of straw to Valdrin, seeking ritual guidance, for his lands too had suffered meteor showers, blighting crops. Over centuries, the 1095 meteor shower and burning dragon became a Seine River legend. European travelers visited Chalon's ruins, heard of ash-strewn slopes, then stopped at Valdrin for the straw smoke festival. They photographed glowing bales, misty smoke, savoring eerie folklore. Today, archaeologists find fossilized straw bales in Valdrin's 1095 dig sites, ash layers in soil showing relentless smoke rituals. They compare it to Chalon's shallow ash pits, lasting just 3 weeks before abandonment. Geological evidence bolsters tales of fire and panic sparked by meteors. Thus, the 1095 meteor shower wasn't mere astronomy, but etched into cultural history. Through the crisis map, we see its reach. Abandoned villages, born rituals, dragonfire myths. Valdrin wielded smoke as a shield, straw as a net against the sky, turning fear into communal magic. As you lie there, ready for sleep, remember a meteor shower could once terrify Europe, yet also birth unique rituals, like Valdrin's straw smoke, marking history's crisis map. And if you jolt awake, startled, just picture passing through a straw smoke corridor, breathing deep, closing your eyes, and reassuring yourself. Tonight, no dragon strong enough to wake me. Imagine yourself in Valdrin's plight as night falls after a week of grief. 3 rough wooden coffins are buried at the graveyard's edge, where wild grass blankets shallow graves. The scent of freshly turned earth lingers, mixed with dried herbs sprinkled atop to ward off spirits. The church bell tolls 3 times, a signal of death, then falls silent, like the hand of a loved one gone forever. In the small hut nearby, the Meyer family clutches pillows tightly, the mother whispering, "My child has no one to care for them now." Children hug crumpled stuffed bears, facing the wall, staring at a photo of 3 siblings, victims of a strange illness, still unexplained. Witnessing mass death, they believe the rumor. A powerful meteor streaked by, casting a curse. By dusk, When the first meteor flashes, fear becomes crushing pressure. In the hushed air, eyes lift to the black sky, a silver blade of light suddenly slashing across. Moments later, the star vanishes, but dread lingers. Villagers exchange glances, hearts pounding, faith in chaos. They can't distinguish meteors from fate. In their minds, a voice echoes. That was the fourth soul. And so, at once, the straw gathering begins. Meteor's father creeps to the yard with a basket slung on his back, torch in hand, eyes ringed with dark circles. He sweeps the jagged pile of dry straw, grabbing the nearest bale. Acrid smoke stings his eyes, but he breathes deeply. Mrs. Meyer flips mats, collecting stray straw and flea husks scattered about. All move silently, like soldiers marching, only the sighs of grief and the rustle of sleeves brushing together, breaking the quiet. At the crossroads, youths still alert from the previous night are summoned. They haul buckets of stream water to douse wooden posts' bases, preventing ash from dampening the ritual. The youngest, Antoine, fights nausea from the stench of dead fish wafting from a distant well. He thinks, no meteors as terrifying as neighbors dying off. Yet he stoops, lining his bucket's bottom with ash, like a strange dance in the dark. The straw smoke is kindled once more. Flames flicker, smoke rises thicker than ever, blanketing every corner of the square. A soft breeze weaves through roof gaps, drawing smoke into every hut's walls. The fumes burn noses, sparking sneezes. Though eyes sting, none protest. They believe dense smoke alone can block the dead light clinging to their breath, enough to keep the fourth soul from seeking them. Amid the haze, murmurs rise again. Not just Ragna, but Elder Flemond too, lips moving in prayer. May God forgive the souls of the three departed and block the fourth streak from stealing another's life. The plea blends with the smoke's faint hiss, weaving a haunting chorus. They say if straw is gathered too late, after a meteor falls, the departed soul, thirsting, seeks its old home. Those unshielded by smoke host it in their chests. This thought spurs villagers to shove each other, scrambling for dry bales. A bizarre chaos unfolds. Adults hoist children, circling fires. Some stamp ash. Others climb chairs to sprinkle ash on roofs. Yet, in that chaos, a strange sense of safety creeps in. Each ash speck on a sleeve, each smoke wisp across a face, feels like invisible armor. And though drenched in smoke, eyes burning, they defy the nightmare, losing another loved one to a meteor. By morning, ash coats the square like frost. The three new graves remain, heavy with sorrow, but no fourth joins them. Whispers at the small tavern rise cautiously. That meteor took no one else. Villagers inhale deeply, exhaling as if shedding a burden. At dawn, they gather excess ash, scattering it around the graveyard in a protective ring, believing it blocks meteors from striking graves. Children are draped in ash-soaked blankets, like spiritual armor. They feel special, proud to join the rite, despite earlier terror. Outsiders might call it crowd psychology. perhaps. But this effect soothed their grief. No longer slumped in tears, they busied with gathering straw, kindling fires, sweeping ash. Minds shifted from sorrow to survival, a potent mental remedy. Reflecting later, Valdrin saw each streak wasn't a death sentence. Now, meteors are just cosmic dust burning out. But in that moment, gripped by dread, they believed otherwise. And that belief, though wrong, saved them from despair. The next year, when meteors returned, Valdrin buried no more en masse. They burned straw, but gentler, just enough to calm. They explained to children, "Smoke only washes away scary images. Meteors don't kill." This showed the custom evolving, less extreme, retaining its mystique. By the 19th century, as oil lamps reached Valdrin, straw smoke rituals faded into cultural masks. Smoke was no longer a searing salve. Instead, it became heritage, taught in classrooms. Don't fear meteors, learn astronomy. Children studied complex formulas about comet dust, asteroids, orbits. Many forgot ancestral fears. But during reenactment festivals, Valdrin hosts Meteor Nights. They restage gathering straw, lighting fires, sweeping ash, not to flee meteors, but to honor ancestors. Yet, as smoke rises, giggles slip out. Did you ever believe in the fire dragon? And adults sigh. I did. Even knowing science, I still do a bit. Thus, each sky streak, once a death knell, became a bridge between past and present. Meteors kill no one, but Valdrin's story reminds us of faith's power, however mistaken, to save souls, grant peaceful sleep. Though you lie in a room aglow with modern lights, dream of a black sky, streaks flashing, and warm straw smoke fires, where each falling star once tied to fate, and faith helped them survive. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, relax a bit, then keep listening to the story. The plot twists are still ahead. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a number 1 in the comments if you find this story compelling, to urge us to bring you more great tales. And you, my beloved audience, brace for the next chapter of this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly love what I'm doing here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from across the globe. In ancient European folklore, breath was seen as the bridge between flesh and soul. Humans didn't just breathe to live. The flow of air between lungs and space was considered the pulse of the spirit. When breath ceased, the soul was trapped, forced to leave the body. Conversely, anything altering breath's quality, be it the scent of roses or smoke, held power to sway the soul. And in the meteor shower crisis, Valdrin's villagers believed the smoke from dry straw was pure breath, potent enough to replace the tainted breath of wandering evil spirits out there. As the straw pile billowed thick smoke, its acrid scent rising in waves, Valdrin became a collective breathing machine. Smoke clung to walls, swirled around thatched roofs, soaked into clothes, seeped through wooden floor cracks. With each deep inhale, they believed they drew in a fresh surge of life, purging the grim echoes of departed souls, especially on nights they buried many from plague or mysterious cattle deaths. A strange spiritual thrill made them forget the darkness outside. Their hearts warmed as if kindled from within. Valdrin's elders recounted that, as children, everyone took turns breathing straw smoke each meteor shower night. This stemmed from a folk scripture. Fresh straw smoke, breathed at night, keeps demon souls at bay. The verse was passed down like a nursery rhyme. Children memorized it, telling themselves, "Smoke cleans breath, demons won't come near." As those children grew, the ritual persisted, but explanations simplified. Smoke clears lungs, helps sleep. On a chilly autumn night, smoke rose dense, clinging to Ragna's hair. She tilted her head, letting smoke curl around her face, inhaling deeply, nodding as if smelling life. She believed this smoke filled her lungs with new vitality, compensating for breaths stolen by demons. The smoke's scent became alluring in her mind, though outsiders found it harsh. The choking sensation convinced her more that her soul was shielded. At the square's edge, Emmerich added straw to the fire, smoke surging higher. He bowed, inhaling it into his chest, muttering an old charm. Smoke's breath, demons heedless. It sounded absurd, but Emmerich believed it strong enough to stop dead souls from latching on to the living's breath. The habit left him oddly invigorated, like sipping a clarity tonic. Each evening, Emmerich woke early to practice smoke breathing. Valdrin's elders devised breathing techniques. One exhaled gently through the nose, another held breath, counting to 3 before inhaling smoke. They believed pacing breaths massaged the soul, letting smoke seep into every spiritual crevice, repelling fate's chill. Thus, Valdrin built a vast lung school thicker than any woolen cloak. Villagers claimed that in bitter winters, straw smoke not only purified soul breath, but dried lungs to prevent disease. When France froze, coughs rattled. Yet those diligently joining smoke rituals coughed less, sneezed less. Locals saw this as clear proof. Smoke wasn't just faith, but yielded surprising biological benefits. One year, Parisian merchants visited Valdrin. They roared with laughter watching villagers breathe ritual smoke. But days later, when seasonal flu swept through, the Parisians stayed healthy, while nearby villages' folk lay bedridden. Word reached the capital, making Valdrin unexpectedly famous. People flocked to northern hamlets, learning smoke breathing to boost immunity. Curiously, this ritual drew not just common folk. Some small monasteries allowed friars to join post-prayer. These friars wore coarse cloth masks to keep smoke from tainting devotions. Yet they too breathed straw smoke, raising ash-blackened fingers skyward, praying, "Lord, forgive our sin of smoke breathing." Valdrin folk retold this gleefully, as if it were a sacred exchange. By the 17th century, as tobacco spread, Valdrin's smoke-breathing ritual became a study topic. A Parisian physician criticized acrid smoke worsened lung ailments, but Valdrin defied, claiming tobacco smoke was demonic, while straw smoke was farmers. Ultimately, they cared only for the psychological effect. Smoke steadied their hearts. Today, with clean air and purifiers, Valdrin preserves smoke breathing in the Meteor Night Festival. Fires are lit, thick smoke curls around thatch, and tourists eagerly join, inhaling slowly. They post clips online, captioned, "Breathing straw smoke for spiritual cleansing." People chuckle, but some shares warn, "Beware smoke dust." Though the world grows civilized, science replacing vague beliefs, Valdrin's smoke breathing endures as cultural heritage. Children no longer believe smoke repels demons, but join for apple candies and old tales. Elders skip counting breaths, yet savor smoke rising under stars. And if you're lying there, ready for sleep, close your eyes, picture standing in Valdrin Square. Thick smoke clings to your hair. Inhale deeply. Feel it brush your lungs like a breeze, a hymn for your soul to unwind. Though you doubt demons or meteors, believe for a moment your breath is cleansed, and you'll feel calmer. That's the spiritual magic of the smoke ritual, a sleep aid no doctor prescribes. When night's thick veil fell over Valdrin, fires were kindled not just to light the way home. In a society ignorant of medicine or disinfectants, fire was the sole sacred weapon against demons and disease. Every drawer, every shelf teemed with fleas. When flames flickered, their heat killed parasites. But that was merely the physical spark. In folk belief, fire also purified souls, banishing inner darkness, its warm light a holy shield guarding both body and spirit. As the ritual began, Ragna wasn't just the straw smoke starter. Beside the blazing fire, she placed a large ceramic bowl, its interior glowing red from the flames. Villagers called it the demon trap, where firelight reflected ripples of light dissolving across the water's surface, as if freezing wandering evil spirits. They believed the village's darkness, from meteor shower fears to plagues, would be drawn into the bowl to be collected at dawn and poured into the river, washed away by the current. In the shimmering glow, the fire's dance on the water was a sacred rite. Each gust of wind made the flames quiver, their reflections rippling like red ants scurrying. Though the bowl held mere well water, villagers believed this method ensnared evil spirits, forcing them to stay put. Friar Jonas dubbed it cleansing by firelight. Even skeptics dared not mock, for each ash speck burned away physical ailments, while the bowls reflected light bound spiritual ones. On ritual night, the crackle of logs echoed in the square, villagers circling the bowl. They busied themselves passing a wooden spoon to skim the water's surface, stirring ripples. Legend held that bigger waves scared demons, preventing them from clinging to the bowl. As the water shimmered ceaselessly, fervent smiles lit the gaunt faces of the poor, as if proclaiming, "The demons are trapped." Their laughter rang to the gray oak forest, like drums dispelling the grim night. At the square's edge, Emmerich gently blew ash onto the water, creating a faint smoky veil drifting across the bowl. He believed this infused the ash, cleansed of plague, into the water. Celia carefully placed dried flower petals by the bowl's rim, symbols of new life post-peril. They spoke little, tending the bowl like a newborn, convinced it held the departed souls, diseases, and demons. The act of placing the bowl by the fire wasn't unique to Valdrin. Across the region, other hamlets adopted it. Bowls varied: ochre clay, saint-inscribed porcelain, even green-glazed earthenware. They likened the bowl to a prison for evil spirits. Firelight its guard. The closer the bowl to the flames, the surer they were that demons couldn't escape. Legend told of Bethune, lazily placing their bowl too far from the fire. When meteors fell, their straw fires hadn't kindled, the bowl's water still as a pond. That night, Bethune awoke to screams in the wind. They believed demons escaped the bowl, haunting sleep. From then, they learned, keep the bowl near fire. The warmer the bowl, the more spirits feared it. Records from St. Louis Monastery noted that when fire grazed the bowl's base, water bubbled faintly, dubbed boiling souls, a sign of ritual success. The tiny bubble's sound in the silent night, likened to church bells, signaled all gloom was burned away in steam. Hearing it, villagers inhaled smoke, returned to huts, feeling they carried a charm under their arms. Over centuries, as medicine and science advanced, the firelight bowl ritual endured as cultural heritage. At the annual Geminide Night Festival, Valdrin reenacts it. An ancient glazed bowl sits by a straw fire, tourists invited to try soul bubble stirring. Global visitors gleefully skim water with wooden spoons, snapping photos to share. Tiny bubbles, firelight glinting, a true history before bed experience. Though no one now believes in demons, the firelight bowl custom links past to present. Valdrin folk watch rippling bubbles, smiling proudly, realizing the ritual not only banished illusions, but united the community, inspiring cultural creativity. Each bubble is a reminder. In darkness, firelight and faith can turn doubt into hope. And if you're lying there, drifting to sleep, picture placing a bowl of water in your room beside a small candle. Watch firelight shimmer on the surface. Imagine those flickers trapping every worry, every shadow in your mind. Inhale deeply, exhale softly, as if your soul is cleansed, ready for a peaceful night, no straw needed, just a flame and a bowl. Amid the straw smoke rituals and firelit bowls, one group seemed immune to wild tales. The monks of St. Louis Monastery, perched on a gray stone hill overlooking Valdrin. They dwelt in an ancient compound where church bells tolled hourly and tiny prayer books gleamed with polished pages. To them, all phenomena fit within doctrine. Meteors were God's fiery swords, wielded to challenge human sin and gather wicked souls. When the Geminid meteor shower swept heavily across the sky in 1095, the monastery's annals bore trembling script. Through the chapel window, stars plunged thickly, blazing like fate's halo. We shuddered, calling it God's sword lightly swung, aimed at sinners. The phrase sword echoed in sermons, hushing even the clumsiest novice dancers in the cloister, their eyes lifting to the arched ceiling. Daily, Abbot Gerard preached. Meteor streaks were God's signs, lessons in humility for mankind. He vowed punishment for the proud, compelling them to kneel, hands raised in prayer. Each time a star streaked by, the monastery rang with fervent Latin chants, echoing through stone vaults. The devoted song seemed to shake the grounds, silencing even ants crawling on walls. But behind such solemn rites, furtive shadows stirred. Young monk Jean-Jacques, deputy for smoke rituals and treasurer, doubted firelight's divine power to halt meteors. While Abbot Gerard raised his prayer book, Jean-Jacques darted to the storehouse behind the guest house, hauling a basket of straw to the yard. He tore off a large bundle, lit a dry bamboo stick, and slipped into the straw smoke behind an oak grove. The crackle of logs mingled with distant chants, as if two rituals ran parallel, one public, one secret. Jean-Jacques wasn't alone. Theobald, the gospel scribe, often led novices to the yard at midnight to snap reeds and kindle fires. When the final bell signaled morning prayers, they doused embers with water, rushing to chapel. No one asked, but all knew. Ash proved efficacy, and the water bowl by the fire had to be potent to trap evil souls. St. Lou Monastery prided itself on iron discipline. Long ago, at its founding, it held an ancient text on sacred fire rites. This scripture declared, "Fire and smoke were weapons against demons, to be used even after prayers." Records sketched monks in straw hats, holding torches, smoking the chapel. They say the text was hidden in a secret library, revealed only during major meteor showers. One October night, the meteor shower coincided with St. Martin's feast, and the monastery held a 3-hour service. As the candle-lit procession moved to the yard, Abbot Gerard glanced up, spotting a terrifying streak. The monks halted, candles wavering. In that moment, instead of chanting Te Deum, they scattered, novices fumbling, dropping wicks. Gerard turned to Theobald, whispering to gather straw urgently, though the chapel's holy fire still burned for the feast. The next morning, a Parisian scholar noted, "Saint Lou Monastery seems gripped by Meteor fear." In a letter to the church, he detailed monks blending prayers with smoke. They placed water bowls by incense burners, drew holy symbols in ash, and burned reeds by the chapel's corner. He described it as a mysterious play where noble figures couldn't escape doubt's grasp. These tales spread to other monasteries. In Clairvaux, Bernardine monks began burning straw smoke behind dormitories, praying for a meteor-free year. At Trappist, silent brothers anointed bowl rims with holy water, their own twist. Europe buzzed. Even somber black-robed orders now wore gray straw smoke stains, firelight flickering like unveiled secrets. Was this the peak of blind faith? Perhaps. But we must admit, amid chants and smoke, monks found solace. Fire guided them, smoke clarified fear. When Abbot Gerard gazed into the torchlit bowl, fire dancing on water like a plea for peace, he nodded silently, muttering praise to God. This blend gave him strength to lead his flock through dark nights. In the monastery courtyard, stone benches became whisper hubs. Young monks gathered, sharing tricks for smokeless straw gathering, layering dry oak leaves in shadow, burning faint incense to thin smoke, avoiding choking. They teased, whoever coughed owed a month's kitchen duty. Though outwardly stern with doctrine, this group kept a humorous shard amid dread. Time slipped quietly. When meteors lost their terror to telescopes, monasteries still softly upheld straw smoke rites. They called it heritage, a lesson in humility before nature. At St. Loup, bowls and straw became chapel decor, alongside saintly torch-wielding icons. Visitors photographed, hunting ancient ash layers, sharing online. Today, few recall the sword of God in monastery logs. But on clear Christmas eves, under faint meteor streaks, some monks still pace the yard, sharing old straw smoke from bales hung on wooden gates. They inhale, swallowing a piece of the past, a reminder of how fearsome dark nights once were. Firelight flickers, chants echo. The monastery falls still, whispering, "With smoke and prayer, nothing's fearsome." And if you're lying there, drifting to sleep, picture yourself a St. Loup novice, straw hat atop, clutching smoky bales, breathing smoke into your chest, gazing at a misty, starlit sky. The sensation is gentle, like an ancient lullaby. No matter how lofty you are, fear levels all souls. But with fire, smoke, and a touch of humor, you'll find warmth and safety to slip into slumber. As autumn days still gilded the straw on Valdrin's thatched roofs, the villagers braced for winter, a season when nature locked them in skin-searing cold. Food grew scarce, and disease lurked in every breath. Winter in northern France wasn't just a seasonal shift. It was a chorus of earth and sky declaring life's retreat, grasses withering, and a frigid air testing every creature. In this setting, meteor showers, brief cosmic displays, took on grave weight. No longer poetic, they were harbingers of the death season. When snow began to fall lightly, dusting roofs with gray-white caps, villagers squinted at the black sky. Meteor streaks glimmered through the snowy veil, blazing like a final light before endless darkness flooded in. It chilled their spines. They called it the season of judgment, tied to sleepless nights when the last rooster's crow might perish in the cold, and meteor streaks wrenched hearts more than any frost. Winter marked the start of rituals to ward off ill omens, piling thick straw, burning smoke, fire-reflecting bowls, fire corridors, and monks hastily burning reeds in courtyards. But as snow buried ash, thinning the smoke's density, scattering it in the air, they rushed to kindle more logs. They believed when snowflakes mingled with smoke wisps, departed souls could slip through snow, setting traps for the living. Thick smoke was an invisible web, ensnaring snowflakes, keeping them from carrying doom indoors. Amid biting east winds whistling through roof gaps, meteor streaks grew eerie. Valdrin folk recounted, "In winter, earth hardens like stone. Food dwindles to boiled yams, pickled turnips. Hearts cool with snow, and when meteors fall, it's as if the earth stabs us deeper." As if history looped, some 30 huts stood empty, owners fleeing to cities, leaving frozen ash on doors. One winter night, the densest meteor shower in half a century fell, recorded vividly. The village stayed awake. Elders' gazes fixed on the icy village path, wondering who'd survive by dawn. Ragna, straw hat atop, frantically tossed bales across the square, even burning cotton wads, though they blazed so fiercely ash coated her face. They called it pillowing defiance against death's light. The fiercer the fire, the more meteors had to steer clear. In the bitter wind, fire's crackle and smoke swirled around frozen faces, villagers sensing two forces clashing. Meteor streaks slashing above, straw smoke rising thick below. The scene quickened hearts, both menacing and thrilling a primal survival instinct. Keep the fire alive, even with a single stick. Meanwhile, Emmerich flipped wooden planks to gather scraps, hands trembling in the cold. He pondered winter's cost, scarce grain, dwindling logs, fading hope. But tossing a stick into the blaze, flames surging, the red glow became a sword slicing darkness, and he felt a spark of warmth for life. Closing his eyes, he sensed the fire's flare like a second heartbeat, the village's heart. Eating snow became a mournful custom. As smoke thinned, children molded snow into muddy balls, dropping them into hot water to banish chill. Sometimes, mothers boiled water with a dried ginger slice, serving it as a divine elixir. They called it spirit-warming drink, ginger thwarting death's light, gray smoke cloaking winter. Friar Jonas, steadfast in straw smoke rites, taught novices a wry quip. This winter, hunger's normal, but hunger's less than cold, and cold's less than falling meteors. Breaking the solemn air, Jonas sparked smiles in the frost. Those brief laughs fueled them to kindle fires, stoke smoke, ensuring it never died. Crop failures often knocked at Valdrin's door. Wheat didn't ripen before snow came. They gathered last harvest's straw as their sole fuel. Bales burned slowly, yielding thick smoke, a fleeting shield against piercing cold. Smoke's scent mingled with melting snow, evoking, "Tonight, we burn straw for warmth. Tomorrow, darkness retreats." In village memory, one night saw snow knee-deep, yet meteors streaked like blood trails on white. Children's screams at the sight startled Ragna, dropping her herb bundle. Straw smoke grew sharper, denser. Villagers scooped ash, scattering it over cow sheds, hen coops, the main square. They believed ash under snow was a potion blocking meteors from plunging deep. Only when winter passed, spring sunlight piercing roof gaps, meteors fading, did Valdrin sweep ash, douse fires. They'd vanquished the death season, at least until next year. Scattered ash stirred like battle scars, stored carefully in straw sheds, winter's medals. Year after year, winter and death's light became legend. Tales spread. If you see meteors in snow, pile straw thick, kindle fires, set water bowls, breathe smoke. Each step was a lesson from hardship's history. Smoke's scent, fire's glow became a sleep aid for souls. Despite cold, despite meteor chases, they sank into peaceful dreams. Today, Valdrin holds a midwinter festival. They erect a small pine in the square, wrap straw around its base, light fires nearby. As meteors fall, via live stream or telescope, the village toasts, "To a warm winter, no fierce meteors." Fire glows in snowy night, smoke rising like a lullaby's curtain. In smoke and flame, they find ancient warmth, healing body and soul. If you're bundled in thick blankets, in winter's chill, picture meteors out there as harsh invitations. Then, light a small candle, place a water bowl beside, and slowly inhale its wick's faint smoke, not straw, but close, to feel warmth seep in. In that moment, you'll grasp why ancients feared winter meteors, and why they believed fire and smoke held timeless power, granting peaceful sleep through icy nights. Amid Valdrin's low huts, the sight of elders by flickering hearths was a familiar scene. They didn't lecture harshly. A soft throat clearing sufficed to begin their tales. These were meteor shower nights, when firelight seeped through door cracks, casting quiet streaks on earthen walls. Children gathered at chair legs, eyes wide, awaiting mysterious wind whispers. Within a few sentences, they were blindly devout, believing every word as life's truth. Old Thalard, white-haired, shoulders curved like an upturned straw hat, was a storytelling master. Each night, he sat by the square's fire, summoning children, sipping warm mead, leaning toward firefly glints in smoke. "My dears," he whispered, "if we don't burn straw to chase falling stars tonight, in your sleep, their light will slip through your eyelids, blinding you." His voice, low and warm, mingled with wind hissing through roof gaps, smoke crackling like warnings from the graveyard. The children flinched, edging from the hearth, seeking dry straw bales. They believed a small bundle, burned just enough, would cloak the sky, blocking starlight from piercing their rooms. They dared not crack doors, fearing playful streaks would sweep their faces and steal their sight forever. In that moment, silence fell, ears ringing with snapping logs, each child's heart pounding like the tensest drumbeat. The tale stretched year-round. It was a psychological drama enchanting children. Staring at a meteor not only blinded, but swelled the tongue, silencing speech. The lard's whispers painted a swollen, red tongue, food spilling down shirts, chilling the children. Thus, nighttime light became a specter. The kids froze, faces buried in cloaks, praying thick smoke and extra logs would shield them. Elders didn't just tell, they illustrated. They sketched swollen jaws in ash, gouged eyes on small limestone. These grim images seared young minds, rigid lessons. Before dashing to huts, each child vowed, "Tonight I'll burn straw, can't let starlight blind me." Adults chuckled at the mental game, but none corrected the legend. That fear ensured the village's diligent rituals. In biting winter, children used the blinding tale to burn straw longer. The longer fires blazed, the tighter smoke-wrapped huts, blocking eastern winds, keeping frost from bones. Thus, fear of blindness fueled survival, keeping kids near ash and straw. Elders said, children believed, fear of blindness tied to warm hearth moments, weaving bittersweet memories. The tale spread to chores. Nights burning straw meant mornings sweeping ash clean, salvaging unburnt logs. Teens questioned, "Why sweep? Let ash guard us?" Elders replied, "Ash proves we beat the meteors." So, after each curse-defying night, the square gleamed, eastern winds sweeping frozen ground like an ash blanket warming their sleep. Time passed. Children grew into youths, spinning next season's tales. They told each other, "Grandparents said so, but who stares at dazzling meteors now?" They laughed, yet their eyes flickered with unease. The oral tradition was so deft that, despite greater knowledge, they dared not skip the smoke ritual. Fear proved itself in action. During cold snaps, they piled straw, lit fires, as forebears did. Some wealthy Brittany families hired distant seers to break superstitions. A seer held a bronze mirror to a window, catching meteor streaks, dismissing them as burning cosmic dust. Yet, when flu struck that winter, the hosts returned to straw burning, even inviting the seer. Reason couldn't quell fear packaged by generations. Now, Americans watching this might smile. Kids scared of meteor light, burning straw. But imagine a lightless night. No books, and hearts would clench at strange streaks on earthen walls. Gathering straw, kindling smoke, though absurd, was how ancients overcame dread. And sometimes, in fear of blindness, they found warmth, safety, peaceful sleep. Tonight, if you spot a meteor, don't panic. Draw the curtain, light a lamp, and smile, thinking of Valdrin's children. They feared blindness, yet that fear birthed warm smoke rituals. No blindness came, only gentle darkness lulling them to sleep. And perhaps that's the truest magic of those long nights. In a world without smartphones or social media, medieval folk still needed ways to send messages swiftly. For Valdrin's villagers, their Instagram story was straw smoke. Each time a dry bale blazed, the village clouded, columns of smoke rising high, proclaiming, "My house is ready with fire." The smoke wasn't just to ward off meteors, but a declaration that the household earnestly guarded against omens, no godless slackers here. On dense meteor shower nights, the village flickered under straw smoke, like silken mist weaving around thatched roofs. Smoke draped black tiles, settling in silvery streaks, cloaking Valdrin in a ghostly mantle of the divine. Passers-by on wet dirt paths or strangers at the tavern startled, noting, "Valdrin's not at rest, they're still burning smoke." When stacking straw, villagers chose the yard's edge where smoke could soar skyward. They piled bales into cones, sparked with flint or embers, then retreated to side doors. Smoke spread, curling around stone walls, drifting into grimy thatch, seeping into wooden doors. By morning, ash dust coated the ground, a trace of last night's tale, signaling to passers-by, that house was prepared. St. Lou Monastery, lofty and solemn, joined the smoke story. In the chapel yard's corner, monks cautiously lit thin straw smoke, craning necks to scan the grounds, treating smoke as a prayer network. They used no hashtags, yet broadcast that, despite their high station, they trusted folk rituals for true peace. Valdrin's children, though grown, still nudged each other. "Look, smoke's rising. That house just lit straw." Teens became village niche influencers, riding carts through hamlets, eyeing smoke columns from each roof. They roared with laughter. "Ragna overdid it this time. Smoke's billowing." The quip spread like a status, sparking excitement to watch each household. No likes or comments, but old Thallard quietly beamed, seeing the smoky clamor. Each bale kindled eased the village's fears. They scanned for neighboring hamlets' smoke, comparing diligence. This bonded the community, though they rationed dwindling end-season straw. Smoke became a gauge of zeal against demons. Sometimes, curious outsiders filmed the misty smoke clouds. They questioned the unique rite, prompting Valdrin folk to boast, "We burn smoke to chase meteors, light fires to banish evil." In a camera's flash, smoke became a nocturnal art canvas, a vivid portrait of faith and folk ingenuity. When meteor showers ended, smoke faded. Ash was swept into pits, debris cleared. But memories of smoke story nights lingered deep. Scholarly science might coldly explain the phenomenon, but straw smoke endured as Valdrin's soul. They passed down tales of smoke as a community network. Today, to taste medieval breath, just peer through a wooden window. Light a small charcoal fire, inhale faint smoke, you'll feel the smoke story spirit. The smoke isn't truly harmful, yet it grants a sense of safety, whispering, "Everyone burns smoke to protect each other." That's the magic of faith. And as you close your eyes, picturing misty straw smoke, tell yourself that, without social media, humans still connected, protected each other, with humble dry bales. Valdrin's community used smoke to send messages, while we need only a spark of faith, respect for the past, to lull us gently to sleep. In the village of Montferrand, a few miles of flat land from Valdrin, the practice of burning straw smoke was embraced as a remedy against ill omens. But that very blind faith brought a scorched curse. The catastrophic fire of that year. Winter stirred with biting north winds, whistling through the cracks of thatched mud huts. That year, meteor showers fell denser than any record, sparking widespread panic. Montferrand, proud as the only village mastering fierce smoke burning, poured all efforts into gathering straw, piling it high like mountains in the square. Dry bales stacked tall, covering the wind-swept yard. The morning before, villagers hustled to kindle fires. By evening, they lit the straw heap under a meteor-streaked sky, smoke columns whitening the heavens. Smoke curled around bamboo fences, slipped through doors, clinging to lime-washed stone walls. Passers-by marveled, "They're so diligent." But that night, an autumn breeze abruptly shifted, fanning flames from the blazing pile to cow sheds, horse stables, then accidentally sparking the dry, rotten, thatched roofs. In a flash, the small village drowned in a sea of fire. The straw bales, meant for protection, turned traitor, transforming the smoke ritual into a horrific blaze. Villagers, straw hats on, torches in hand for smoking, now flailed buckets of meager water, helpless as flames spread like ravenous wolves. By dawn, Montferrand was ash. Thatched roofs, stables, late-season grain stores, all charred. The desolate scene left everyone stunned. They sought kin in Valdrin, borrowing kindling, scavenging scraps, but few had surplus. The village lay destitute in one night. Amid the chaos, rumors spread. The cause wasn't shifting winds, but meteors so potent they cast fire from above. Montferrand folk blamed, God. They admitted burning smoke was a mistake, but desperately sought external reasons to dodge responsibility. The verdict echoed the region. The more you fear meteors, the worse it gets. Village Mayor Francis, tears barely dried, sent a delegation to report to St. Lou Monastery. The report claimed, meteors not only herald doom, but hurl spirit fire. The monastery received it gravely, advising continued smoke burning, this time with more holy water. Yet truth couldn't be veiled. When the monastery's decree returned, nearby villages saw Montferrand as a cautionary mirror. They cut back on straw, burning smoke in small bowls, scattering ash around stables. Ward off meteors with smoke, but in moderation. Montferrand took 3 harvests to rebuild stables. They learned, excessive fear destroys. The blind faith that saved Valdrin nearly doomed them. Villagers realized smoke was a spiritual tool, not a weapon of ruin. The next year, when meteors returned, Montferrand no longer piled straw in the square. Youths heeded caution. Burn just enough smoke to see, don't overdo it. They arranged water bowls, ash, candle fires, and left a hard-won lesson. Never let fear lead to disaster. Valdrin buzzed. Montferrand burned for burning too much. They teased, smoking out demons or the whole village. Through light laughter, they reinforced control. Enough smoke to banish evil, enough fire to light the way, not so much as to squander wealth. The Montferrand fire became a cautionary tale. Every act against omens needs wisdom. Ash scars on the ground bore the old curse. The more you tremble, the more you invite woe. But through it, the community learned to balance folk faith with survival's clarity, like adding salt to smoke burning. Just enough to ward off demons, not burn the house. Even today, visitors to Montferrand see tiny ash remnants in yard corners with a wooden sign, "Burn smoke, not homes." This is history's gem passing down a lesson on the peril of excessive faith and the power of tempered fear. Imagine you're curled under warm blankets, smartphone in hand, streaming a meteor shower live stream, a ceaseless, twinkling spectacle. Your eyes lazily catch each streak, body relaxing, soul drifting with the modern scene. But over 700 years ago, in Valdrin, meteor showers weren't a sight for wishes, but a death knell ringing through the night. Each falling streak was a fateful flash, threatening the fragile lives of the poor. In that world, the straw smoke ritual was born, a legacy still lingering in the echoes of the past. In medieval Europe's vastness, no astronomy or books explained the cosmos. Stars were creation's defiant souls, sparkling then vanishing, bearing cryptic messages. Meteor shower nights were blows that made hearts tremble as life shrank amid hunger, cold, and disease. In pitch-black gloom, Valdrin turned to straw smoke, gathering dry bales, kindling fires, breathing smoke, like a soothing lullaby, calming primal fears. For smoke wasn't just a scent, it was a reminder. We're not defeated yet. The straw smoke legacy spread across the north, though today no one chokes on fear of blindness or swollen tongues. But the ritual holds a timeless spiritual value, human connection. As bales blazed in the square, the village gathered, inhaling smoke, bowing in prayer, pleading for peace. No one slept alone. Fear was shared, loneliness banished by collective hope. That was the true magic. Picture the final night of the straw smoke ritual. A hushed stillness, only logs crackling. Warm, pungent smoke clings to hair, curls around cloaks. Elders sit cross-legged, eyes shut. Children clutch heads, mumbling old prayers. Youths inhale smoke, sighing deeply. They say nothing. Fire and smoke sing the lullaby. Each smoky breath is a hope. Each exhale a farewell to nightmares. 700 years later, many thatched roofs have crumbled. Memories of burning bales no longer cast fear's shadow, but live as tales, gentle as lullabies. Modern children learn of straw smoke as a history snippet. Long ago, people gathered straw, burned it, breathed smoke for peace. They listen absently, picturing misty ash, that's all. Yet deep down, the story ties them to ancestors, reminding them of a community's strength. Visit Valdrin today, and you'll see a small monument in the central square. A bronze straw bale, ash etched with names of villages abandoned to meteors, a bell inscribed simply, "Straw Smoke, Life and Faith." The monument is a tourist check-in spot, snapped for memories, tagged #MedievalSmoke. Instagram. Valdrin folk chuckle. No Instagram back then, smoke was their story. The straw smoke lullaby doesn't just echo in Valdrin's dark nights, but resonates in European culture. Poets, musicians draw on smoke and fire-lit bowls as symbols of fear and hope, in verses or chorales. The folk song Straw Smoke Night blends sweet, mournful tones, telling of ancients kindling fires in snow, keeping sorrow from turning to ash. Even now, as you lie there, imagining a meteor shower outside, picture the straw smoke ritual, gathering bales, breathing smoke, praying with the village. No need to fear blindness or swollen tongues. Just envision smoke threading your lungs, soothing panic. It's the deepest lullaby, easing you to sleep. And if you're still awake, you're braver than many medieval folk. They sometimes slept trembling, under fate's shadow. But you're here, reading this. Today's courage isn't gathering straw, but facing fear, sifting beauty to comfort your soul. If this story warms you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you've seen a meteor shower. I'd love to know, whether you're in Manhattan or Malibu, London or Lyon, we share one dazzling sky. No straw needed, just imagination. Sleep well, and may no streaks flash beyond your window, only your cozy bedside lamps glow.